Hello, mathematicians! I am so glad that you could join me today in our first segment. I miss you guys so much, and I hope you guys are having a great day so far. Today we're going to be learning about something really cool, something called dividing regions into equal parts. But before we can get started, I want us to learn how to talk like mathematicians. And in order to do that, we're going to need to use our vocabulary and some new sentence frames in order to learn how to talk just like a mathematician. So let's get started. Let's go over our vocabulary wall first. We have quite a few words that I would like to go over. We have the word equal, unequal, whole, divide, halves, thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, sevenths, eighths, ninths, and tenths. Okay, now let's go over these just a little deeper so we understand them. Equal. So when we talk about something that is equal, we want to say that it is the same size. When we talk about that today, when we're dividing regions into equal parts, we're going to be looking for these sides, all of these sides to be equivalent or equal. Another vocabulary word that we're using today is unequal. Now we learned about the word equal. So unequal is un and equal. So that means they are not the same. Okay, so in this case we're also talking about something that is not the same size. So for example, see how these are exactly the same size? Each side is equal. Now if this line were to shift over to this, and we'd have this little sliver right here, and then have the rest of it as another part, did we divide those in equal parts? No, we didn't. They were unequal. Now our next vocabulary word is whole. And when we talk about a whole, we're talking about the entire shape. Whether it's a circle, a square, a rectangle, a triangle, we're talking about that entire shape, the whole thing. And then when we talk about divide, which is our next vocabulary word, we're talking about a whole, but we're splitting it into different parts. Now, when we talk about splitting things into parts, there are different words that we use depending on how many times we split that shape. For example, halves. Halves is when we split something in half or in two parts. The next one is thirds. And thirds is when we have three different parts. But it's important to remember that all of these parts are equal. Whenever we talk about any of these halves, thirds, all the way to tenths and beyond, we're talking about equal parts. So that means we're splitting them to where all the parts inside the shape are the same size. So for thirds, we're going to have 3 equal parts. For fourths, we're going to have 4 equal parts. For fifths, we're going to have 5 equal parts. Sixths, sevenths, eighths, ninths, tenths, and beyond are all divided into equal parts. Okay, and we can look back at this if we need to refer to it more. Now let's go over some sentence frames so we can begin developing our mathematician talk. So our first way that we can use sentences to help us talk like mathematicians is when I say a sentence like, I solved the problem by blank. And then this area is where you're going to fill in your answer. So for example, I solved the problem by using a manipulative. And then I found my answer. And then another sentence is, the strategy I used was blank. And you can plug in the strategy that you used. The next one is, I can check my answer by blank. Okay, you would fill in your answer for that blank as well. The last one, the key words that helped me were blank. And in this specific sentence, it's really key and important to use our vocabulary words of the day. That way I know that you understand the words and that you are getting that practice of using and understanding the words as well. Okay, so now that we understand our vocabulary and some sentence frames that we can use today to talk like mathematicians, let's move on. So now we're going to be talking about dividing regions into equal parts. And by this, I have some examples of the vocabulary that we talked about today. Okay, so let's look at this first one. We have this circle split into two parts. Now I know it's written there, but I want you to tell me, how many parts was it split into? Let's use a vocabulary word. Yep, exactly. Halves. It is split into halves. So that means there are two equal parts. Ready? Let's count them together as I shade in. We have 1 and 2. We have 2 equal parts. Remember, that key word is going to be equal. Those parts need to be equal. Now let's look at this one. This is a box or a square, right? So this one's divided into 4 equal parts. You see how there's different ways from looking at this chart that you can divide our shapes into in order to create equal parts? Pretty crazy. So let's see, let's count all together. Let's count how many we have. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in mathematician terms, we call that fourths. Now let's look at another one. This one says it's split into sixths, but I can check my answer by using a marker to highlight all the different parts. So let's count all together. So we have 1 part, 2 parts, make sure you're counting with me, okay? 3 parts, 4 parts, 5 parts, and 6 parts. And in mathematician terms, what do we call 6 equal parts? 6, exactly. Let's keep working. So we've got another one, and it looks pretty big. It says it's divided into 7 equal parts, or sevenths. I don't know, it's a lot of lines. I think I better check the answer, just in case. So let's see, sevenths. So how many are we going to be counting to? Oh, that's right, 7. Okay, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Were there 7 equal parts? Yeah, that's right, there were 7 equal parts. And mathematicians say sevenths. Okay, now let's look at this one. That one looks a lot different. It's not divided into halves, or 2 pieces. It's divided into thirds, or 3 pieces. So let's count these ones. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3. So there are 3 equal parts. Let's try a couple more. Oh, we're getting to some big ones. This can get tricky. So let's see, we have a circle that is divided into 8s. Let's see. Let's count these ones too. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make sure you're counting along. 7, and 8. How many equal parts were there? That's right, there were 8 equal parts, and we call those eighths because it is broken into 8 equal parts. All right, now we have another one. We have a box or a square that was divided into fifths. So let's check and see if it's divided into 5 equal parts. Let's see. Let's count together again. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 equal parts. All right, now let's move on to our very last one. This one is huge. We're going to be looking at tenths. Look at that. Look at that size of the box. Oh my goodness. So now we have to make sure that there are 10 equal parts to this box. Are you ready? Okay. Let's count again. This is going to be a long one. Ready? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wow, that's awesome. Let's take a look at that one. There are 10 equal parts. Now I want to remind you, because you'll have some practice problems later today, that you can actually break down your own shapes into equal parts. Even though there are some ways that I divided these shapes, there are a ton of different ways. You can do, instead of tenths like this, you can draw a box with 5 squares on top and 5 squares on the bottom. You can do a variety of things, but the most important thing is that you have equal parts. This is a really tricky topic because if, let's look at the 6th. Let's say I draw a line down the middle. Cool, I'm good, we got halves. Now let's see, I know I need to draw a couple more lines in order to get 6, right? So let's say I draw another one going this way, and then another one going this way. But we have really uneven parts. That's gonna hinder us or affect us later on down the road when we're learning about fractions. So understanding this really important topic of dividing regions into equal parts is super beneficial and helpful to your learning. So make sure you practice this today. And so now I'm going to have us practice something else, and we are going to practice what it looks like to have an unequal part. Now I want you to brainstorm while I put this together. What is an unequal part? You can look at our vocabulary word wall just in case if you need some more help. Okay. So I hope you had a minute to take a look at that. And now I want us to check this out. Now we're going to be talking about unequal parts, so you can imagine what it's going to look like. So here we have a rectangle, right? Because it's got a longer top side that is parallel to the bottom and 2 parallel length sides that are just a little bit shorter, okay? But let's see. I have to ask you, is this shape divided equally? Remember, that means that both sides of the shape must be equivalent or the same size. Let's look. Oh no. Okay, so that side of the shape is quite a bit smaller than this side. So, would you say that this shape is unequal? Yeah, I would. Let's try another one. All right, this time I'm going to draw a circle. Okay, and I'm going to divide it into sixths. I'm going to demonstrate what I talked about earlier. Okay, so I divide my circle in half, right? We have 2 equal parts. So far, so good. And then I'm drawing another one. There we go, okay. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I just need to draw one more line. Bingo. Oh no, wait a minute. Are these equal or unequal? Oh, I think they're unequal. Look how big these pieces are compared to this little piece. In order for us to divide regions into equal parts, they need to have the same exact size for every part of that division. Okay? So that's super important, and why we need to be really careful when we're drawing. So now let me give you another example of how to draw an equivalent or an equal parts. So I'm going to start with an easy one first. You guys all know how to divide in half. So I'm going to divide in half. So far so good, right? Maybe a little off, but everyone makes mistakes, right? And now I'm going to draw a cross. Yeah, it's still not exactly perfect, but you know what? That's close enough to where it looks like it's going to be equivalent parts. When we have examples like the one I just showed, that's where it can get a little tricky. And when we're doing math, it'll throw you off just a tad bit. So that's why it honestly is worth taking your time to draw out your shapes, because those drawings are a fantastic strategy to help you. Okay? All right, and so now I'm going to check for your understanding to make sure you understand the difference between equal and unequal parts, okay, when we talk about regions. So I'm going to have 2 circles, and I'm going to divide them both into, let's do a new one. Let's do eighths. That's tricky. Remember, when we spell eighth, but we're going to add a th at the end, which is a THS. But since we have the T, we're just going to add the H and the S, okay? Eighths. So I'm going to divide this into eighths, and while I do this, I actually want you guys to grab, but with make sure you have your parents' permission when you grab these materials. I want you to grab a blank piece of paper, and it can be scratched. I'm using a scratched piece of paper, that's totally fine. And then a bowl, and some scissors, and a pencil. So you need a scratched piece of paper, a bowl, a pencil, and scissors. Make sure you ask your parents for permission before you grab any of these materials. Okay. Welcome back. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about eighths, and I'm going to test you. Which one is equal and which one is not equal or unequal? All right, let's look. Now that you've had a moment to think about it, let's look at the parts specifically. Okay, so if I were to look at this shape, it looks like they're pretty equal. I'm going to measure with my fingers because I feel like that's like the best way to do it. So, or to color. You can color it into, which actually is I'm going to do that. So let's see. So I have this shape, that shape. Yeah, those look about the same. Yeah. Yeah, I would say that that one is equivalent. Thumbs up if you agree. Thumbs down if you don't. Tell me in the comments what you think. Let's look at this one. Oh, I don't even know if I need a color for this one. These 2 parts are really, really small, and these 2 parts are really big. Does that make them equal? No, it doesn't. So in order for them to be equal, remember they need to have the same size and shape throughout. Okay? Great job. So now what we are going to do is, if you have your bowl, your pencil, your scissors, and a piece of blank paper or copied paper, either one is fine, we're going to use those to make our very own equivalent parts with a circle. That's what the bowl's for. So if you can go to a flat surface like a table, a desk, even on the floor is fine, just don't press too hard with your pencil. And we are going to use our bowl and the paper and the pencil to trace a circle. So I'm first going to lay my paper down flat. Okay, I will wait for you to do so as well. Okay, so once you have your paper laid down flat, you are going to grab your bowl, and you know how we usually use a bowl like this? You're going to flip it upside down and face that front side of the bowl towards your paper. We're going to use that to create a circle. And now we're going to grab our pencil, make sure we have lead, or if you have a regular pencil, you're good to go. We're going to go around and trace the outside of the bowl all the way around. Super important to remember not to let go of that bowl so you can keep that good circle shape. Once you have traced all the way around your bowl, you're going to lift up your bowl and you have a circle. Okay. And so once you have something like this, now you are done with your bowl and your pencil, and you're going to grab your scissors. And you are going to carefully follow this circle line to cut out your circle. Let's do that together really quick. Remember, sometimes it's good to take your time so you don't get off of that line that you drew. Okay. And now we are done with our scissors. So you should have something that looks like this. Okay? It's just a circle made out of paper. And what we're going to do is we're going to practice dividing the regions of this circle into equal parts. And so let's practice dividing into halves, okay? And what we do is we take our whole circle and we fold it in half, kind of like a taco. Okay, so everyone, let's do that. Okay. Okay, now we have a taco. And once we really put a good seam in there by rubbing that seam line, we're going to open up our circle. And there will be a faint line from where you created the seam that shows 2 equal parts. Do you notice that? So when we divide something in half, we get 2 parts. Let's try another one. But since we divided into 2s, I think we have to keep it even in order for it to work. So let's fold that half line one more time. So we have a taco. And now we're going to fold our taco in half. So it's going to look like this. Okay, we're going to make sure we get that seam really good. We're going to make sure we get the other seam really good. Okay, and now we have this. Let's open our circle back up. And look at that. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. You know, I kind of want to keep going. Do you? I'm going to keep going. You can do this as many times until you run out of space on here, which is really cool. Let's see. Let's divide one more time. So to do that, we're just going to take this and it kind of looks like a pizza. So now we're gonna fold our pizza in half. I think that's called like Chicago style or something. And we're gonna fold it along that line. Okay, now we got a little slice of pizza. We're gonna make sure we get that seam really good so we can see it. And then we're gonna fold our other line so we can see it really good. Okay, now that we have this piece, we are going to unfold it and see how many pieces we have. Whoa, oh my goodness, there's so many more pieces. Let's count them. Ready? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We made 8 equal pieces. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's try one more. And then after that, we'll move on. Okay, so we're just folding it back into its shape, like this. It kind of will do that itself. Remember, we folded in half, half again, and half again. Let's try folding it one more time and see how many equal pieces we can get. All right, so I folded my shape that looked like this in half one more time, and I got an even smaller piece that looks like this. Okay, once you get to this step, you're going to push down on those creases one more time, really good, so you have a really strong line. Okay, and then now we're going to open up our circle, and let's see how many pieces we have now. Wow. I think this might be more than 10. All right, let's count them. So I have, oh, this is kind of hard to see now, huh? Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Wow, that's really cool. But you know what? I almost lost track of counting. So what's really helpful is if you are counting shapes like these and you can't tell by just looking at it how many pieces it's divided into, a really cool tip is taking each piece and labeling it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so as you count, you can keep track of all the pieces, and that last piece that you write on is the total number of parts. And then you just have to look and see if they're equal or not. Pretty cool. All right, so now that we have done that, you guys can color it, you can watercolor it and have your parents hang it up in the window. It's a really cool little tool, and honestly it'd be really cool to hang on to for our next segment as well. That might help you with our next segment. So yeah, hold on to it, color it. So now our next step, so we are going to be opening up our workbooks. So if you could grab those and a pencil and then come right back. We are going to turn to page 9-1, and you will know you were there if the title says Dividing Regions into Equal Parts. And I want you to turn to that practice page for me. So it looks something like this. Okay. So for this practice book page, I know Miss Johnson's class usually does odds, but since we are so far away and we don't have all the stations that we usually do, I'm going to have us do all of the practice problems, and then afterward we'll do the reteaching. But I'm going to actually help you guys with doing a couple problems so you know what to do while you're at home. And if you have any questions and you're a little confused, feel free to come back and watch this video, and hopefully I answered some things. If I didn't, please write in the comment section and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, so let's look. The first set of questions, 1 through 4, the directions say Tell if each shows equal or unequal parts. If these parts are if these parts are equal, name them. Okay, so let's look at that first one. It looks like an oval that has a horizontal divide. Okay, so it looks something like this. Kinda like that, kinda. And then it's divided in half with a horizontal line. So let's see. Okay, so it's divided into halves. Cool. Are they equal? Yeah, I would say that they're equal. So now we're going to write equal on that first line. On that second line, remember it told us if the parts are equal, then name them. So now this is the point in time when we're going to go back to our vocabulary wall and look at the different ways that we can talk about dividing. So for this, we have 2 equal parts. So now I look for 2. 2. So it is divided into halves. So now we're going to write halves. On that second line. Remember, if you have a hard time counting, keeping track of how many equal parts there are, you can label them. Okay? And that last number is going to be your total number of equal parts. Let's actually look at number 2, because that's a good one to go over. And so now that one is a triangle. So it looks like this. Okay? It looks like it's divided in half, down the middle. Now we have 2 parts. Okay, and then it looks like they went across right here. Okay? Here's our answer lines. Okay, so now we have to decide whether the parts in the shape are equivalent or equal, or if they are not equal or unequal. Okay, so when I look at this, I don't think it's equivalent or that these parts are equal, because this shape actually looks like this if you were to pull it out of the shape. Okay, and then the bottom shape looks like this. If we're looking at this shape versus this shape, which one is bigger? Yeah, I would say this one too. So does that mean that these parts are equal or unequal? Right, they are unequal. So we're going to write unequal right here. Remember, if you're confused about how to spell something, this is a great time to look at our vocabulary wall. So unequal, that means our parts are not equal or the same size. Cool. So now that we know that, we don't have to write how many parts it's divided into because it wasn't equal. So we'll just leave that second line blank. Okay. Now let's move down to questions 5 through 8. And I'm going to give you a couple examples before you start working on your own. So it says, name the equal parts of the whole. Okay, well I forgot what a whole was. So let's look back at our vocabulary. A whole. Okay, so it's one piece or an entire thing. So it's that entire shape. What shape is number 5? Let's see, I'm going to count the sides. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, that's an octagon. Kind of like a stop sign. Actually, it is a stop sign. So, let's see. That's a tricky one to draw, but I'll try my best. Okay. It's not a perfect octagon, but it will work. It looks like they connected all of the line, or the corners. So that's what I'm going to do, and they all intersect in the middle. So it looks something like that. So now it's telling us to name the equal parts of the whole. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to grab a different color so that way it's easier for me to see. And I'm going to label by numbering all of the equal parts, because we can see that they all are equal in size. So I have 1, 2, 3, feel free to count along if you want, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so there are 8 equal parts. Does that answer my question? No. So I think it wants us to use a vocabulary word. So instead, I'm going to look over at my vocabulary wall, and I see 8, and we're going to write eighths. So here we go. Remember, like 8, and we're going to add the THS. Since there's a T, we're just going to add HS. Eighths. And that's going to go on our line for an answer. Let's look at one more and go to number 6. So for that one, it looks like it's a rectangle. So I'm going to draw out a rectangle. Remember, you don't have to do this part because you have the paper right in front of you. If you want to draw it, go ahead. More practice, the merrier. And it's divided into 3 equal parts. Okay, we have 1, 2, and 3. 3 equal parts. I found that out without counting, but I can use another strategy by counting. So I have 1, 2, and 3. I use that last number to find out how many equal parts there are. And then I look at my vocabulary wall to find out the vocabulary word for 3 equal parts, and that is thirds. So on the line below the shape, I'm going to write thirds. So thirds is a little different than fourths, fifths, sixths, and so on, because it doesn't end with the THS. And I'm not exactly sure why that is, but for thirds and halves, they are spelt differently than those other ones. So you're not going to do halves or thirds. It's going to be halves and thirds, fourths, fifths, and so on. Okay. Now let's look at number 9. So for number 9, it has eighths written down, and then it gives us, it looks like some graph paper. So let's see, let's read the directions first. That's a super important step. So let's see, use the grid to draw a region showing the number of equal parts named. Cool. So there it's telling us that we need to draw a shape or a region to show number of equal parts named. For 9, it's telling us to divide into eighths. Okay, and then it gives us some graph paper, so I'm just going to make me some graph paper really quick. And then I need to figure out how I can draw a region with eighths. Now with this, it's a little different, but that's okay. There we go. I'm trying to find a marker that works. So eighths. So when we look at a grid, do you notice something similar about all of these different boxes? They're equal. So basically, I just need to create a region that has 8 boxes. You can do this in a variety of different ways. So I want you to be creative. You don't necessarily have to do exactly what I did, even though it's a model, so it can help you. So, an example, It's kind of hard to work with all these boxes. I'm just going to number them. So let's see. We have 1 box, 2 box, 3 box, 4 box, 5 box, 6 box, 7 box. I'm gonna throw the box down here. 8. Okay, so now that I've labeled 8 equal parts, and they actually have to connect in a way, so make sure you put them side by side, I'm gonna outline my shape that I created. Alright, so I created a shape that looks a little different. It doesn't exactly look like something we've looked at before. It doesn't look like a circle or a square, maybe a couple squares combined, but it's different. But this is acceptable. You can do all sorts of things. You can make a big box, you can make a rectangle. You can't make a circle because they used boxes, but you can make a whole bunch of different shapes or regions. And I'm gonna leave that up to you to get creative with. Okay, and so I think that is all I'm going to assist you with. If you guys can keep working and do numbers we did 2. Do 3, 4, 7, 8, 10, 11, and 12. That will be fantastic practice for you. And it will really get you used to finding those equal parts and dividing them into regions. And then after you do that, if you can practice on the opposite side where we have reteaching, it's 9-1, so it's the same topic. And you'll actually have a demonstration of like my poster right here. So that'll help you too. And you can just go in, make sure you read the directions, super important, to answer these. And then provide the answer on the line below. And then if you also need help with writing any sentences, if a question asks you to write and explain, you can use sentences like these or come up with more sentence frames to help you talk like a mathematician on your own. Just make sure you're using this vocabulary because that'll really help you understand. I just want to take a few minutes for us to think about how we feel about this lesson, okay? I want you to think about if you understand it, if you had any troubles, if you need more help, and that is the perfect time for you to tell me in the comments. Unfortunately, I cannot talk with you face to face when I make these lessons, so I cannot give you instant feedback, but I can try my best, and that can only happen through the comment section. So if you can, please let me know if you're struggling. Give me a thumbs up if you saw this video so I can know that you watched it. And, well, just remember, I'm always here to help you. I will do anything possible to help you. And I really enjoyed teaching you today. I miss you all so much. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you guys for tuning into this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to see you next week. Before we go to our next segment, I would like to end with some trivia. And then next week, I will let you know what the answer is. And so this is for animal science, and our question is, true or false? The orca is a type of dolphin. An orca is a type of dolphin. True or false? All right, I'll tell you next week. I hope you guys have a great day.